entitled A Revision for Baccalaureate Level. At the beginning, allow me to introduce my colleagues in the studio, Ms. Ula Al-Mou'i, English Language Supervisor, Tartus Directorate. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ms. Sana Ismail, English Language Teacher, Damascus Directorate. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Ms. Maha Al-Jarkas, English Language Teacher, Damascus Directorate.
Good morning.
Good morning. And me, Abdul Majid Ogorli, Senior Supervisor and Coordinator of English Language Curriculum in the NCCD. I want to greet our Director in the platform, Ms. Rasha Khansa. Thank you so much for being with us. And we're going to start right away. Before we start, this is a revision for your exam book. We hope we will be successful to help you. We are going to give you some tips, advice, pieces of advice. We start with Ms. Ula. What do you advise the students?
Okay, so far they still have time, so start studying if you haven't yet, and be quiet, be calm, things are going to be okay. In the exam, pay attention to the numbers of the questions, put the right answer, match it to the right number, and pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm. Good. Do you have anything to give as advice?
Okay. Organize your study space and practice on all the exams.
Mm-hmm.
Take regular breaks and don't be afraid.
Yes. When someone is afraid, he forgets.
Yeah.
Of course.
Miss Maha?
Prepare yourself well. Don't be afraid. Be calm. Pay attention to your spelling when you write. Pay attention to the numbers of the questions. Be sure that you write the right answer beside the right number.
Most importantly, the students need to know the meaning of the vocabulary in the book. They still have time to learn. If they learn 5 words a day, it will be okay for them to remember what they don't know or what they learned before and to learn new words, because the exam paper depends on if the student understands the meaning of the question, he will be able to answer. Can we go to the next slide, Ms. Rasha, please? Ms. Ula Al-Mou'i, the floor is yours to tell us about wish.
Okay. Now we're going to start with the causative, or wish.
Wish.
Okay,
Wish.
sorry. With wish. We're going to have a revision for the grammar. To start with wish. With wish, we have 2 very important steps to do. The first one is to use the opposite of reality. So if the sentence is in negative, we have to write the wish sentence in the positive. If the sentence is in positive, the wish sentence should be in negative.
Or something different from reality.
Or something different from reality. And the tense, the second step is to make the tense a step back in the past. So
we go back
one step in the past. For example, present becomes past. Past becomes past perfect, and this goes with simple and continuous. We can have an example, a simple one to make it clear. I am late, I wish I wasn't late, or I wish I weren't late, and can go this way, I wish I was early. This is different from reality.
Yes.
So he was late, we can use it as I wish I were, or I wish I was early. So we can use positive, negative, negative, positive, or use the opposite adjective, for example.
Yes.
This is late becomes early.
As you mentioned, where can go with all pronouns after wish.
Exactly. I forgot. This is past. I forgot about the meeting. It becomes I wish I hadn't forgotten about the meeting.
The past
becomes past perfect.
Past perfect. Next
and it
slide.
works with the same present, continuous and simple.
Okay. Next, Ms. Rasha. In order to, because, and so that, Ms. Sana.
Okay, thank you. First of all, in order to and to have the same function, and they are followed with the infinitive.
Yes.
Okay. For example, some people move to greener areas in order to survive. Some people move to greener areas to survive. This is the same meaning.
Yes.
Because is followed with the clause. Okay, because
we
it's
mean
used
by
to
the
say,
clause a subject and a verb.
Yeah, because it's used to say, why do we do something? For example, Irish people immigrated because...
Irish people
Irish people immigrated because so many had died of starvation. So that is used to link actions with results, which means causes and effects. So that is followed with a clause, not a sentence.
Yes, actions with results.
Yeah.
So that is used to link actions with results, cause and effect.
Yeah, for example, farmers need more land so that they can grow more soya beans. We use so that, and in order to talk about the purpose, we often use them with modal verbs. As we can see,
Next
so that
slide,
they can,
Ms. Rasha.
yes, they can grow, so we use them with modal verbs.
Okay, Ms. Maha, must be and can't be.
When we are sure something is true, we use must be. Example, she has 3 houses, she must be rich. When we are sure something is not true, we use can't be. She always borrows money from her friends, she can't be rich.
She can't be rich. And usually in the exam, either we have it as a missing word to fill in, like can't or be can be missing, or between brackets to choose one of them. The use of causative verb. We move to the causative verb have. Miss Saula.
Okay, first of all, to start with what we mean by causative verb. We mean it that something had or didn't have something done. When we do something but we didn't do this thing ourselves. This way we use the causative verb. And it can be in the present, in the past, and in the future.
Next slide, Ms. Rasha.
We can have examples, of course. For example, and in the causative verbs, they can do the same as in wish. So if the sentence is in negative, we use it in the positive form. If it's in positive, we use it in the negative, the opposite.
But we don't go one step back in
No,
the tense. It's
doesn't go with
the
the
same tense. Present becomes present or remains present. The past remains
We don't
past.
change the tense. We don't change the tense. We change positive into negative, negative into positive. Samer didn't repair his car himself. It becomes, because this is past, didn't. So we use have in the past. It becomes Samer had his car in the middle, repaired past participle. Samer repaired his car himself. This one is in the positive, so we use it in the negative. And in the past, Samer didn't have his car repaired. So we give the tense of the sentence to the verb have.
Yes.
And the verb of the sentence becomes past participle.
Thank you so much. The
Thank
following
you.
slide, Ms.
Okay, now
Sana.
we have examples in the present,
present.
simple present, yes. Samer doesn't repair his car himself. The causative is Samer has his car repaired. Here in the first sentence, we have simple present in the negative form. Samer repairs his car himself. This is simple present. Causative, Samer doesn't have his car repaired.
Yes, and we need to notify the students that in the original sentence we have himself.
Should be
it
omitted.
is not exited. We need to omit it when it is in the causative. Reported speech, Ms. Maha.
Yes. Reported speech is used to report someone's saying, and we start with he said or he told someone. We go in the reported speech sentence one tense back, example, which means, the present becomes past. Example, direct, here we have a direct sentence. I am hungry becomes he said he was hungry. Of course, we don't have to change, we can't forget to change the pronouns. I becomes he or she, and the possessive adjective my becomes his or her, and so on.
Yes.
And of course, everything near becomes far.
Far. Next slide to show the examples. Ms. Maha, continue.
Yes.
Now.
Now becomes then, here becomes there, this becomes that, today becomes that day, tomorrow the next day, and yesterday becomes the day before.
So everything near becomes far. Next slide, Ms. Rasha. Reported questions.
Now, with the reported questions, we have to know that we have two kinds of questions.
Yeah.
WH questions like, what's your name? And yes-no questions that start with the auxiliary, like, are you Syrian, for example? To start with the WH questions, there are steps to follow. The first one, when we report WH questions, we start the question with, he asked or he wanted to know. This is the way we start the reported question. Now, if we have an auxiliary that is do, does, did, we drop it.
We drop it.
If we don't have do, does, did, we have a different auxiliary. It goes after the subject.
After the subject.
So
like
now we
sentence.
start with the WH word. After that, we use the subject Then we use the auxiliary.
So we change the order of the sentence.
That we change the order of the sentence.
The
Like
order
the positive
of the question, it becomes like a sentence.
like
not
a sentence, a
question.
positive sentence. Now we drop the question mark, of course. We put a full stop because it's not a question anymore. Example, where do you live? He asked me where I lived. We dropped do, and the tense of the sentence is present, it becomes past. So he asked me where I lived.
Lived. We dropped do,
And
we went one step back to the past. and
just
it
like
became-
any reported speech.
Next slide, Miss Sana.
Okay, in yes or no questions, we use if or whether. For example, can you swim? This is a direct question. He asked me if I could swim. This is a reported question. Another one, do you speak English? This is a direct question. She asked me if I spoke English. This is a reported question. Did you do your homework? This is a direct question. He asked me if I had do my homework. This is a reported question.
Yeah, thank you. Miss Maha, the passive voice.
The passive voice is used when we don't know the subject or we want to focus on the object because it's more important. And of course, there must be an object in the sentence. How do we change an active sentence into passive? We put the object at the beginning. We change the main verb to verb 3, which is the past participle. Then we put between them a verb to be as follows.
Follows. Next slide, Miss Rasha, please. Miss Ula.
Okay, here we have examples. To start with the present simple. Simple present tense, we put the verb to be in the form is, am, are, and past participle after that. Example, he eats an apple. It's a present simple. We start with the object, which an apple is eaten. An apple is eaten. He eats, Sam eats apples. Now, it's almost the same. It's a present simple, but the object is different. So here we use are, not is.
Not is, yes.
Apples are eaten by Sam. Now, with the simple past, instead of is, am, are, we use was, were, because this is simple past. For example, he ate apples. We start with the object. Apples were eaten because this is simple past, were eaten. Present continuous and past continuous, we put being after verb to be. For example, he is eating an apple. An apple is being eaten. Is being eaten, this is present continuous. Tom was eating apples. Now we start with the object apples, and this is past continuous with a plural object. So were being eaten by Tom. So we have to concentrate on be and past participle. We put the verb to be in the tense of the sentence.
So the students need to be careful when we have a definite subject, we put it at the end of the sentence preceded with by. When they are not sure to put the subject or to leave it, put it is better. To put it is better because if you put it and we don't need to put it, we don't lose marks. But if you leave the subject and it's important to put, you lose marks. So it's better when you are not sure, put it at the end of the...
By using by.
Using by. Yes, Miss Sana?
With the present perfect and past perfect, we put been or we add been after the verb to have. For example, he has eaten apples becomes apples have been eaten. Another example.
Why did we change has to have, Miss Sana?
Okay, we changed it according to the subject, to the object.
Because
Apples is plural.
The
Yes.
direct sentence is he has eaten, has goes with he.
Yeah.
But when we put apples at the beginning, apples takes have.
Yeah. Another example, Sam had eaten an apple. This is in the
Past perfect.
An apple had been eaten by Sam. In the future tense and with auxiliary verbs, we put P after the auxiliary verb. For example, he will eat apples becomes apples will be eaten. This is very easy. Sammy can eat a lot of apples. A lot of apples can be eaten by Sam. Tom must eat apples. Apples must be eaten by Tom, and etc.
Yes. When the subject is definite, we mention this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Miss Rasha, the next slide. The use of the. Your term, Miss Maha.
Yes. that is used with a noun of which there is only one. Example, the sun and the moon. It's also used with a noun which by reason of locality is considered one. The prime minister, the teacher. And it's used with nouns mentioned a second time. Example, I bought a car. This is the first time that I mentioned the car. The car is red. The car that I bought, that I talked about before, is red. And then that is also used with a noun which has become definite by the addition of a phrase or a clause. The girl in blue. Here, in blue, make the girl definite. Yes.
Yes.
The man who answered the phone, of course, who answered the phone makes the man definite.
Yes. We continue with Miss Ula.
Okay, now we can also use the with the musical instruments, like she plays the piano.
After the verb play.
After the verb play. Like she plays the piano, she plays the violin, etc. With superlatives like the best, the most, the slowest, etc. And with countries which consist of more than one word, like the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and things like that.
Yeah. The following slide, we move to the use of a.
Okay, finally, the use of a and an. With consonant, we use a. With vowels, we use an. With singular countable indefinite nouns, of which there are more than one and mentioned for the first time, for example,
This summarizes the whole usage of
indefinite,
a and
singular, countable nouns. Okay.
So when it is definite, we cannot use a or an. When it is uncountable, we cannot use a or an. When we have only one, we use the. And when it is mentioned a second time, we use the.
For example, a boy, an apple,
A boy.
a car, an umbrella. With professions, which means jobs, a teacher, an engineer, and so on. To mean pair, for example, 5 pounds a kilo, 50 kilometers an hour.
An hour.
With meals, when preceded with an adjective, for example, I had a delicious breakfast.
I had a delicious breakfast. Usually, meals don't take a or an except when it is followed with an adjective. Actually, we want to focus or concentrate, insist on the students need to read the texts well. If they don't know the meaning of some words, they need to learn the meaning of the words they don't know. And while reading the text, they need to hide prepositions, we mean functional words, prepositions, pronouns, relative pronouns, and try to read the sentence without them so that they can know the missing words. Actually, the words from the list, they come from the stories in the supplementary. Even if they don't read everything, I'm not saying don't read. I'm saying even if you don't read everything, if you know the meaning of the words, it's very easy to put them in the spaces because it will be logical. Grammar is important. They need to revise the grammar, the simple present until the future. We concentrated for this session on the main usages of the grammar in the book. We are going to have another session. We may talk more about the exam paper in the following session before the exam. For the time being, this is a summary of the grammar of the baccalaureate book. Thank you so much, dear students, for being with us. I want to thank Ms. Ula Al-Mouai, English Language Supervisor, Tartus Directorate, Ms. Sana Ismail,
Thank you.
English Language Teacher, Damascus Directorate, Ms. Maha Jarkas, English Language Teacher, Damascus Directorate, and I want to thank our Director of the platform now, Ms. Rasha Khansa, the Director, Manager, Mr. Mahmoud Hamid, and our boss, Dr. Nadil Ghazuli, the Minister Deputy, he was behind the platform establishment, Dr. Darim Tabba, and of course, last and not least, Mr. Imad Al-Azab, our Minister. This is me, Abdul Majid Oghurli, Senior Supervisor and Coordinator of English Curriculum. We hope you do well in the exam.